only 9:30, so there'll be nobody here.
This weekend we're marking two historic events. Firstly, this year marks 50 years since steam trains ran in regular service on the island's railway lines. The island once boasted 55 miles of railway lines, but by 1966, 50 years ago, only 2 lines remained. But this line, which we now operate as the Isle of Wight Steam Railway, was part of the former Ryde, Newport, Calbourne railway line, which closed in February 1966, leaving just a section from Ryde to Ventnor. Then the Shankton to Ventnor section closed in April 66, leaving steam trains on just the Ryde to Shankton line, steam surviving there until the end of 66. So 50 years since the end of steam on the island. So this weekend, it's great to remember the island's railways as they once were, with O2s and Terrier locomotives scurrying around the island network. And this weekend, we're really proud to have number 24 Calbourne, number 11 Newport, and number 8 Freshwater in steam, hauling some of the trains today and over the weekend, and number 2 Yarmouth on display in the Train Story Discovery Centre. Now, in the early 1960s, British Railways considered bringing another type of locomotive to the island. More powerful than the ageing O2s, a couple of Ivet Class 2 tank locomotives were assessed for their suitability for the island's rails. Indeed, BR even got as far as designing various brake modifications. In the end, it never happened, and the O2s, including Calbourne, which is in service today, survived to the end of 1966. But actually, it has now happened, and behind me is a fine example of an Ivet Class 2 262 tank locomotive, newly restored and back in service. 41298 was built at Crewe in 1951. It first worked on the southern region on empty stock workings into and out of Victoria Station. In 53, she was transferred to Devon for work on the branch lines around Barnstable. 10 years later, down to Weymouth to look after the boat trains and local passenger services. And a final move in October 66, this time to Nine Elms on the southern region, where her last few months in British Railways ownership was spent on empty stock workings as a station pilot. Now, steam working finished on the southern region in July 67, and the locomotive was then purchased directly from BR by the Ivet Locomotive Trust. 41298's first home in preservation was at the Longmoor Military Railway in Hampshire, and then she moved to the Buckinghamshire Railway Centre. 8 years ago, in 2008, she came to the Isle of Wight, arriving at Haven Street on the 28th of November that year. And the following year, the Ivet Locomotive Trust generously transferred ownership of 41298 and their 2 other locomotives to the Isle of Wight Steam Railway. Since then, 41298 has undergone a major heavy overhaul. Its first test steaming took place in August 2014, with additional work then continuing throughout the following 12 months to September, October last year, when she hauled her first fare-paying passengers for some 48 years. Now, at this point, I'm going to welcome to the podium, if I may, Len Pullinger, who was the man who really looked after things and got the locomotive here from Buckinghamshire Railway Centre, the former Chief Mechanical Engineer of the Isle of Wight Steam Railway. Len, good morning.
Good morning.
In a nutshell, a big task to get the locomotive here and get it back in the wonderful condition it's in today?
Well, yeah, it's been going on for some years.
When you went to Buckinghamshire, what sort of state was 41298 in?
Partly restored, partly the Peter Clark and Roy Miller have done a lot of preparatory work for it. Yeah.
Now, I recall as you say, partly restored, but I remember lots and lots of parts, container loads, kits of parts.
Well, there were 3 engines, as you know, and some were not complete, so they sort of passed together a great mass of spares from other scrap locos and particularly IVA 2s and standard 2s from around the country. Anything they could get hold of, really, to make enough for their collection.
And now that she's operational here on the Wight Steam Railway, what difference do you think it's making to our locomotive collection, to our motive power here?
Well, you can't run a railway like this with an O2 and 2 terriers. You need a bit more than that with a commercial, any sort of commercial success. We started off by supplementing the old historic logos with the 2 austerities, which were generously gifted from the Army Railway. They meant survival for the Isle of Wight Steam Railway. Now we've supplemented that further with the IVA collection. The other 2 IVAs are on the mainland currently. The other tank engine will come back here. This is definitely the way forward. It gives enough backup and it gives enough motor power to run the railway properly.
Now, I know it was an enormous amount of work. Huge credit to you and your team. Lessons learned, lots of new things to do, because prior to that, as you say, looking after Victorian locomotives, this one's quite modern by those standards.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, we never stopped learning, did we?
And really, it was a team effort, a great team effort from the engineering team at the railway.
Yeah, terrific team all over. Those are Quainton Road and here, and what's going on in the West Somerset Railway, East Somerset Railway as well. So, yeah, it's a credit to them all.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Len. Len Pullinger, ladies and gentlemen, man who sort of led the project to get 41298 to where it is today. Well, as we just mentioned, it was the IVA Trust that generously donated this locomotive, and indeed there are other 2 locomotives. So what are of those other 2? Well, IVA Class 2 tender locomotive, number 46447, has been overhauled at the East Somerset Railway, and we have our friends from the East Somerset Railway with us here today, and it's now in regular service there. And sister IVA tank loco 41313 is currently undergoing heavy overhaul at the East Somerset. But this morning, it's all about 41298 behind me, and as we formally welcome this superb engine back into service, it's very appropriate to warmly thank the IVA trustees, Roy Miller and Peter Clark, for most generously donating her and the other 2 locomotives to the Isle of Wight Steam Railway. And it's also very appropriate today to again thank our team of skilled mechanical and steam engineers here at Hayden Street who brought the locomotive back to life. Len Pullinger, who you just met, Andy Summers and a host of staff and volunteers have spent many thousands of hours of at times heavy, painstaking work bringing the locomotive back to life. Now, shortly after their arrival here, one of the then unrestored IVAs was hauled to Ashy and Smallbrook behind another loco to check clearances and platforms against platforms and bridges. On that day, we had the honour of the company of IVA trustees Peter and Roy, who rode on the footplate. Very sadly, they are unable to be with us here today to witness 298's return to service. But I know they're thinking about us and their treasured locomotives, and they will be extremely proud that the adventure they started all those years ago with the purchase of 3 redundant locomotives in the late 60s is taking another giant leap forward today. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us here today for the formal welcome back into service of 41298. In a few moments, the loco will complete its shunt onto the train, waiting by the platform, ready to head the 1208 to Smallbrook Junction. But first, there's an opportunity for you. There's an opportunity for someone to enjoy the privilege of joining the loco crew on the footplate of this next train to Smallbrook. We're raising much needed funds for the restoration of Sister IVA Loco 41313, so we're now going to hold a short auction for the chance to take that footplate ride. And let me welcome our resident engineer to the podium, Simon Butcher.
Not resident engineer, resident auctioneer. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, we've needed to raise £145,000 to put 41313 back into service, and we're now just £10,000 short of this total. Before I do the auction, just to say you're all very welcome to join us on the first train in a few minutes. You will find on the seat a little envelope inviting any contributions, any small change or folding money, cheques, or whatever, towards this final restoration. If you can put your loose change in the envelope, there's a little green box over there. Drop your envelope in there, it would be very much appreciated, or you can hand your envelopes into any of the booking offices. There are also the options of a couple of footplate trips on Calbourne this afternoon, so if anyone's interested in a trip on Calbourne, see this tagger who's around here, will come and find me and I'll put you in touch. Okay, so we're now going to auction then a full round trip on the footplate, the 41298, starting right now. You must, I'm afraid, be able-bodied to book with, being the footplate and everything, we have to do that. So, can someone open the bidding? It will offer me £100. We'll get a lovely photograph of you in the footplate with the crew and everything. £100. Come on, somebody. Somebody must want to ride on the footplate. £50. Thank you, sir. £100. Thank you very much. 125, anyone? 125?
Just pausing for a few moments while the driver makes ready to shunt down onto the train. So once again, get yourself a good vantage point, particularly if you have a camera or you're filming this. The loco's going to slowly shunt down, break the ribbon and move onto the train, ready to haul the 1208 to Smallbrook Junction. Just while we're waiting, do remember there's a regular service of trains today throughout the day, right through until about 6 o'clock this afternoon. Trains hauled by 41298, by number 24 Calbourne, number 8 Freshwater and number 11 Newport. Do also make sure you visit our Train Story Discovery Centre, where you'll see the world's last remaining E1 locomotive, number 2 Yarmouth, on display in Train Story. We're also very grateful to our friends from Haven Falconry who are over there in the field, who've actually delayed their first display of the day. And there's falconry displays in a few moments' time, and again at about 1:30. We're just waiting for the driver to raise steam. We're ready to go. So once the duty officer is ready, the train will now move forward. So cameras at the ready, please. Round of applause for 41298, now formally back in service.